There's a lot Kentucky is still fighting for this season, and against Vanderbilt tomorrow, the Cats have to play desperate.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of the show, we are going to preview Kentucky basketball's matchup with the Vanderbilt Commodores, a revenge game for Kentucky, yes, but the Cats have to really roll into this one playing desperate. Also on today's episode, Tyrin Stokes, while Kentucky's still in the mix for the number one overall recruit, Stokes doesn't want to come to UK, and that's a problem. That is a big problem. What does it mean for Kentucky and their recruiting? We'll talk about all of that on today's episode. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla, cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, would love it if you subscribe to the show. And if you are listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribed there as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. So Kentucky versus Vanderbilt happening here on Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. The whole world's going to be watching this one. And after what we saw in Nashville, the first go-around, I am not particularly fired up about this matchup. Kentucky lost by 25 points to the Doors last time they met. Kentucky, shockingly though, favored by 1.5, according to FanDuel, heading into this one. So the books expect something different. And in terms of energy, in terms of effort, in terms of want to, I am also expecting something a little different from the Wildcats in this one. In the first go-round, we saw it especially in the first half of play. Kentucky had no interest in getting back in transition. They had no interest in guarding the three-point line. Vanderbilt took them out of their element. Yes, it's a live Captain Crash. Shocker. They took them out of their element. Kentucky couldn't take them out of their element, I should say, early, and it was a bloodbath from the jump. Kentucky only shot 37% inside the arc. They were 6 of 24 outside. You remember Owe getting the inbounds after a Vanderbilt bucket and then just walking back out of bounds. Really, really ugly stuff from the Cats the first go-around. Now, here we are, a rematch where Kentucky still has the ability to make a push for the 4th overall seed in the SEC tournament. They can still get that coveted double bye. They can still go out there and prevent themselves possibly from losing early in the SEC tournament if they can find a way to win this game and then obviously win a couple more here to wrap up the season. This game has a lot on the line for the Cats, both in terms of the now, revenge, both in terms of the short-term future, what you're going to be doing in the SEC tournament, and then what we're going to be doing in the long-term future, what your seed line is in the NCAA tournament. We have talked about all of it already on the show. We have talked about all of the different reasons why Kentucky needs to get, frankly, they need to win out, but they need this one pretty bad because it's at home, you're favored now, You have incentive to play hard in this one because of the way that they embarrassed you the first time you played. This means everything for Kentucky. It means everything. I say all of this. I'm hyping all of this up. Watch Kentucky lose by 25 again. But this one you need really, really bad. Ever since Vanderbilt beat Kentucky to improve to 18-3, 5-3 in SEC play, they've actually stumbled a little bit. They barely beat Ole Miss before losing by 1 at Oklahoma. Then they beat Auburn on the road. They beat Texas A&M at home. Then they lost to Missouri and Tennessee in back-to-back games. And they're coming off of an 88-80 win over Georgia in a game where they couldn't keep the Bulldogs off the offensive glass and from shooting the lights out from deep. Shocker, Georgia has now suddenly discovered how to shoot the ball here as they wrap up the season. The Cats aren't playing an invincible team. This is something that I've continued to say after the Florida game. I've said it on live. If you've been watching here on YouTube, I've said it on just regular episodes. Florida is not an invincible team. Are they a very good team? Yes. Yes, they are very, very good. Probably underseeded as a 3 seed is what they're projected to be right now. Probably underseeded, very good team. They're not invincible. And Kentucky showed that with a hard effort, they can be beaten. Vanderbilt is not invincible. They've already lost to Tennessee and Oklahoma, 2 teams that Kentucky has beaten. Actually, they've lost to Arkansas and Texas as well, 2 teams Kentucky has beaten. They need Vanderbilt, honestly, to cool off on the offensive end in order for this to feel like a game that Kentucky really can take control of. But I think that starts with your effort. I think that starts with your energy. I think that starts with your want to, guys. Kentucky's got to show that they want to win this game before they actually can win this game. It was the main thing that took them out of the blowout in Nashville the first go-around. You have to have discipline, especially on the defensive end. I can't read that, Captain Crash, but no. You have to have discipline on the defensive end. You have to if you're Kentucky. Guard the perimeter. Be aggressive inside the paint. Really make this Vanderbilt team work for what they want to get. This is a well-coached team with great personnel. I respect this Vanderbilt team. Kentucky's got to punch them in the mouth early. They've got to go out there and show we're not messing around. And after what we saw against South Carolina on Tuesday, I don't exactly have a ton of confidence. They got punched in the mouth early. Kentucky did. And South Carolina was just simply so bad that Kentucky was kind of able to get back in that game. And it felt like playing with their food a little bit, honestly. It felt like playing with their food a little bit because of the fact that South Carolina was just simply so bad, and yet Kentucky continued to shoot themselves in the foot with the shot selection. They were taking all these jumpers when they could have just drove the ball to the rim. Ugly stuff from the Cats against South Carolina, and it really did kill my vibe heading into this one. But I don't think that changes for this team. I don't think the urgency, the desperation, the drive should change for this team just because they had an off night against Carolina. They got to go into this one playing like that their lives are at stake. No, lives are not at stake. I want to be clear. But they have to go into this one playing like that. Absolutely, they do. So we're going to continue to break this one down. There's actually a major factor for Vanderbilt that is returning in this game. A player that didn't play the first time around, and Vandy still won by 25. We'll talk about that and kind of how matchup-wise Kentucky can attack this one. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you guys about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board's been set. I actually have already drafted my pick because I get first overall here. I get dibs. And my pick is actually Confetti Craze. I've talked about it. I'm usually not a big-time sweets guy. I'm not a big cake guy, but Confetti Craze tastes incredible. Vanilla punches you right in the mouth. Great cake flavor. And the cool thing about the 5 Hour Energy shots is they give you this caffeinated boost with 0 sugar. No sugar in these things, and they taste incredible. They got a ton of really cool upcoming flavors as well. You can find your new flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. The biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. To the casuals, for us, we've been here this whole season, but you've seen buzzer beaters. You can see bracket busters later on in March, those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. But being live for something like that, that's bucket list stuff. The hard part is actually getting tickets. Long queues, prices jumping around, surprise fees at checkout, and the Game Time app gives the advantage back to fans with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's incredibly simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time at the best price, and here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. What you see is what you pay, period. Take the guesswork out of buying your college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, Continuing along here on today's episode, really appreciate everybody in the live chat watching. If you have any questions, any comments, you can drop those in the live chat. We'll get to them here. A couple of you already seem to believe that we are actually going to win this game against Vanderbilt. Big time matchup against the Doors. Doors 22-6, 9-6 in SEC play. Cats 18-10, 9-6 in SEC play. Just shows you how different both of our non-con slates went. I won't say that Kentucky's was insanely more difficult. I would argue that it's more difficult because when you're playing teams like VCU, SMU, St. Mary's, and UCF, I mean, like, I'd rather play those teams as opposed to Michigan State, Louisville, North Carolina, Gonzaga, but, you know, to each their own. It's a big-time matchup. Big time matchup. The cool thing for Vanderbilt is that they get their leading scorer back. They did not have Duke Miles the first time these two teams played. And now they've got him. Miles shooting 35% from the floor, gets to the free throw line at a pretty high rate, an excellent free throw shooter, 60% true shooting percentage, really solid assist rate, second in the SEC right now in steal percentage, it looks like. He is an incredible point guard for them. Well, actually, he can kind of tween between the one and the two, and I guess Tanner takes most of the run at point guard, but he's an incredible guard for them. And he wasn't there the first time around against UK, and now he is. Last two games, he's had 12 and 15 points against Tennessee and Georgia, respectfully. And in this one, he's going to be ready to facilitate, to play really hard defense against Aberdeen and OA, and that could be a bit of a problem. The steals actually do concern me, because OA has proven down the stretch he's just struggling as a ball handler right now. And then Aberdeen is not a true point, so he's never going to be as shifty as somebody like Jalen Lowe with the ball in his hands. But Aberdeen has still been serviceable there, I will note. This is going to be a weird one for Kentucky offensively. Are they able to attack Vanderbilt driving the way that they frankly need to in order to open up everything else in this game? Last go around, Kentucky just could not get any sort of consistent production from beyond the arc. And part of that had to do with Jasper Johnson, who was 1 of 5 in this game from 3. Trent Noah also 1 of 4. What if we continued to say the bench, net negative, has to be impactful in order for Kentucky to be competitive? If Trent does end up playing 12 to 15 minutes in this game, he's got to knock down he's got to be efficient. He has to be efficient. We talked about it for over 15 minutes on yesterday's episode. I would encourage you to go back and watch it and hear why Noah is a net negative for this team right now, but he can turn it around. It's not just his shooting value. I know that. I know that. Jasper, 1 of 5 as well. Does he even play in this game? I don't know. If Kentucky has to, I guess they will play him, but they really can't afford to play somebody like Jasper, who showed the first time around he's incapable of playing well against this team. 4 turnovers in 1 of 5 shooting in 13 minutes. You can't have that. You can't have that coming off your bench. I would rather play Aberdeen the entire 40 minutes than play Jasper. I just would not play Johnson right now. You have to be better from 3. You have to make better decisions from 3. Kentucky actually had just a lot of shots that were open, if I remember correctly, in that Vanderbilt game, just not fall. And pair that with a lack of defensive effort, pair that with playing the wrong players, pair that with 15 total turnovers, which Kentucky has continued to cough the ball up more and more and more down the stretch here. And I guess that is another point that we need to get to. The Wildcats have really struggled to hold on to the basketball as the season has taken, kind of closed down. 15 turnovers against Vanderbilt, turning the ball over against Auburn, turning the ball over against South Carolina a little bit. They had 15 turnovers against the Gamecocks. They got to hold on to the ball in this one. They got to make the right decisions with the basketball, and they got to hit a couple open shots. My assumption is if FanDuel is projecting Kentucky to win, like they're favored by 1.5, a couple of things are at play here. One, they are expecting Kentucky to play much more competitively this time around. And second of all, they are also expecting the crowd to be a factor. I've said it on a little bit of a rant 3 different times already this season. I'll say it again. Rupp Arena has to be a factor. You play Vanderbilt and you play Florida. Two of the better teams in the country, two of the best teams in the SEC to close out this season. Rupp Arena has to be willing and able to get involved and be a factor in this game. If you are listening to this and you are going to the game and you have no intention of cheering, yelling, screaming, trying to be a factor, I strongly implore you to reconsider and to try and be a part of this game on Saturday. You are part of the game. It is 100% one part of the reason why the books think that this is going to be a much more close game, a game that Kentucky ends up winning. The crowd has to be a factor. We have to step it up. Kentucky actually, according to KenPom, is projected to lose this game by 1 point. It is a 47% chance for Kentucky, basically a 50-50 shot. I think Kentucky's going to find a way to win the game. I think they will play desperate. I think they will make the right decisions with the basketball. I think they will not turn the ball over. I think they will play hard defense. I think this is a game you'll get from Garrison where he actually gets up and plays hard, and the crowd feeds into it, and Kentucky has a good game. I think the Kentucky Wildcats are going to win tomorrow against Vandy. I have hope. I have faith. We'll see if they can get it done. Let's hope Big Blue Nation is able to show out. I hate to close the show on a negative note. Kentucky is probably not going to get Tyrin Stokes. And it's not over, but it's pretty clear he doesn't want the Wildcats. And this was originally paid-walled information, but it's been posted by everybody online. I would be doing a disservice to you by not talking about it. Let's discuss the recent news about Tyrin Stokes in just a second. Before we do that, though, sip of water. And then I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Coast. Coast Pay is giving Locked On College listeners up to $2,000 credit for your business when you get started today. So if you manage a crew, construction, HVAC, landscaping, any operation with trucks on the road, you already know how messy gas and materials spending can get. Cards can get shared, receipts can disappear, and month end turns into a headache. Coast Pay fixes all of that. It's the modern fuel card and expense management tool built specifically for fleets. Fuel, maintenance, materials, all in one card with real control and instant visibility. Every transaction shows up the moment it happens. No surprises. If someone fuels up at an odd time or tries to buy something outside their limit, you'll know instantly. You get real-time alerts so you always know who's spending what and where. Automatic receipt capture that makes month-end simple. Fraud protection with employee check-ins by text. No shared pins. Works anywhere. Visa is accepted. No detours to specific stations. It's built for operators who don't have time to chase paperwork. Unlike old fuel cards, there are no contracts or commitments, just smarter expense control. And again, right now, Coast Pay is offering our listeners up to $2,000 credit when you get started at coastpay.com/lockedoncollege. Go to coastpay.com/lockedoncollege to see how you can earn up to $2,000 in credit. Terms apply. The Coast Visa commercial credit card is issued by Celtic Bank. All card accounts are subject to credit approval. All right, wrapping up today's episode of the show. Thank you so much to everybody in the live chat who's watching here live. If you've got any questions in the live chat, really appreciate you guys watching. Subscribe if you're listening to this on podcast after the fact. According to Joe Tipton of On3/Rivals, they've kind of merged at this point. According to Joe Tipton, college basketball insider, Kentucky's probably not going to get Tyrin Stokes. However, as I've continued to say, it's not over, and it's weird how it's not over. This has been posted all over the internet. There have been fan sites that have reported verbatim on this, so hundreds of thousands of people have seen it already. I would be doing a disservice to you to not read this to you. According to Rivals /On3's Joe Tipton, here's what he had to say recently about Tyrin Stokes. Kansas remains the heavy favorite to land Stokes. According to sources, The top-ranked recruit has been telling people around him that the Jayhawks are in the lead. However, NIL negotiations are still ongoing between Kansas and Stokes' agent. I'm told the two parties aren't far apart from one another, but they have yet to agree on a deal. Kansas invested significant NIL money into its last top freshman, Darren Peterson, a year ago. However, the former Rivals industry number 2 overall recruit in the 2025 class has missed significant time for various reasons. That lack of return on investment could linger in the minds of Kansas' staff if the price of Stokes gets too high, which is fair. Kentucky continues to pursue the 5-star recruit, but sources say that is not where Stokes prefers to go. However, the Wildcats remain an option in case a deal doesn't come together between Stokes and Kansas. One program recently told Rivals that they decided to pass on pursuing Stokes because his agent had too high of an NIL request, around $6 million for one season. Soon after, the agent dropped his request to $4 million. But the program still decided to walk away because it didn't want to invest a large portion of its NIL budget on a single freshman. Couple of things there. Kentucky is playing second fiddle, and that's crazy to me. Kentucky at one point was favored to land Stokes. And now reporting comes out, Stokes doesn't want to come here to Kentucky, the place that develops and spits out NBA talent better than literally other program in America. Nobody does it better than Kentucky. And the best recruit doesn't want to come here. However, as Ito is already pointing out in the live chat, and The Rock is pointing out in the live chat, $6 million is out of this world crazy. Frankly, $4 million for a player of Stokes' caliber with the baggage that comes with him is still ridiculous. Credit to whichever program already pulled out of this race, because they probably don't have the NIL budget that Kentucky does. And $4 million to them is ridiculous. $4 million to us is still stupid for somebody like Stokes, who could pull some Darren Peterson shenanigans and not play half the season. Not play at all. We've seen that with Shaedon Sharpe already. So if you're a Kentucky fan and you're thinking about Tyrin Stokes, unstoppable when it comes to his ability to score in the offensive half court. He is just a bully at the rim. Super efficient, can handle the ball, can shoot it a little bit as well. He would be an offensive hub for Kentucky, and he'd be really fun to watch. But also, think about this for a second. How far have those teams gone in March that have the one-man band? Usually they don't go that far. Usually you have to have a pretty strong supporting cast around those guys. And Tyrin Stokes doesn't seem like the type of player that you just build a roster around that has a strong supporting cast. You spend a lot of money, up to $6 freaking million on one guy, one freshman, mind you. And right now, no better than any other point in the history of college basketball can you go out and get transfers or get older, experienced talent that outperforms freshmen. Coach Calipari has talked about this. If he's realizing I can't recruit freshmen like I used to, then what are we doing? Tyrin Stokes is not worth $6 million. I would argue he's not worth $4 million for Kentucky. If they end up getting him, I'll be excited because he is such a talented player and he will provide value, but I am so scared of what he could just decide to do. Like Darren Peterson has showed. Peterson has showed you can just pull out of any game if you don't want to play. If you want to preserve your stock or if you want to stay healthy, you can just pull out of the game. Sharpe has come to Kentucky and proven that you can still get drafted highly and not play a single minute of college ball. Stokes would do the same, could do the same thing. He could do the exact same thing if he wanted to. So it's a risky investment when you could spend your money on a guy in the transfer portal, a senior, a Yaxel Lindenberg type player that is, frankly, similar build, similar style of play, has played college for 4 years, and provides the experience and the mental fortitude to endure a season at a place like Kentucky or Michigan or what have you. He's mature, he's experienced, and he would be capable of producing at, frankly, I think a higher floor than what somebody like Stokes could offer, because you don't know how bad he could be. You know how good a player like Yaxel could be. So I'm not fully out on this because Kentucky's not fully out on this, but man, I'm seeing some negatives here that I'm not too quite fired up about. I am not excited about the thought of dropping $4 to $6 million on Tyrin Stokes and that being a third of our budget next season. I really, really don't like that idea. But we'll see if Kentucky can manage. Maybe they get Stokes and some really high-profile guys at the portal, out of the portal, and they just manage to make it work. I don't know. But as a lot of you guys are saying, this doesn't seem like a great idea. Now more than ever, it doesn't seem like a great idea for a college program to throw that much money at one freshman, especially one that's trying to compete for a title and a coach that wants to keep his job in Pope. Bad idea. All right. That's going to do it for today's episode of the show. Sorry that this was a pretty short live stream. I appreciate everybody tuning in. You can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. Follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Drop a comment. What do you think about Stokes if you're still watching this, by the way? This is a weird recruitment that I don't quite get. It. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I'll see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.